Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Did you hear my bird fly to my microphone?
I heard a little bit of some.
Yeah, she gets excited every time I start the podcast. I don't know why.
I mean, you can give her a cardboard box again and put her in the...
I have a cardboard box for her, but she is very fascinated with me at this current moment in time. But it's funny because we're talking before the podcast, and she's not making a noise.
Yeah, she's 100% silent when we're preparing for the podcast.
Just completely silent. Yeah, and then I start the podcast, and
she won't shut up. Yep. Yep.
Anyways,
that's what we got.
I don't think I said let's do this.
No,
so
you
let's
didn't.
do this, I guess.
Let's do this.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's start the lukewarm open.
Yeah,
for this week.
let's jump in.
So I've been watching a bunch of stuff on YouTube about I don't want to say subsistence living. That makes me sound weird, but for some reason I've been finding this person on YouTube fascinating. He travels to lakes that are off the grid, I guess you'd say, and he hikes in with his canoe, and then essentially just goes all throughout these lakes just randomly all over the United States, and he runs a YouTube channel, and been really super interested in him, and I decided that as I was watching him today, he was in the middle of one of these, a larger lake up in the mountains, and there was a huge windstorm in the middle as he was canoeing across the lake, which is really bad, as you'd probably can guess, but his hat flew off and fell into the water. And I was like, you know what we're doing this week for the Lukewarm Open? A hat. That is my story. Welcome. Thank you for my TED Talk. So, how would you make a hat interesting in D&D? How would you... This is a little bit more difficult, but how would you make a hat interesting? Not just your average hat.
There's a rat in it, and when he pulls your hair, he can kind of control your arms. And he's a masterful chef.
He's the best chef.
He's a masterful chef.
That'd be actually really funny, though,
original idea.
to have
Nobody's ever heard of this one.
See, I think, but that would also be kind of funny though, a grung or something that's in a hat that controls somebody or something, or that'd be really funny.
That would be funny. And just a little grung in a hat that is controlling a person, making them be the big bad evil guy or whatever. And it's actually just a grung.
Can we talk about the logistics of that? How does that even work?
No, it doesn't make any sense at all. Of pulling hair to move body parts. No, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I had hair for a long time. Long hair. Oh, I had hair for that is true. I've had hair for a long time. But I also had long hair for a long time.
So for people who have never seen Aaron, he constantly has his hair short, very short. So that's what he's talking about when he was saying, I used to have hair.
But when I did have hair, it was very long. Mm-hmm. And I don't see how, if somebody were to pull my hair, that they could control me. I'm just saying right now.
I mean, I have very long hair.
I feel like the guy in Ratatouille needs
controlled by it.
What was that?
I have very long hair, and I can't be controlled by it.
I feel like he needs to go see a doctor or something. There might be something wrong.
Oh no, there's 1,000,000%. It's horribly wrong. Some nerves were messed up, and there's definitely some damage somewhere.
His hair's actually growing out of his brain, so when you touch his hair,
you can send shocks to his brain. Yeah,
something.
Pretty much.
But anyways, without stealing something from, is it Disney or is it Pixar? Disney?
I think it's Pixar.
Without stealing from something, Pixar. Without stealing from something from Pixar, what would you think would be an interesting way to add a hat into a game?
A hat. Well, I mean, you could always do the classic hat mimic.
I've never heard of a hat mimic. But that's
I know, but I'm
hilarious.
saying the classic thing to do. The easiest way to add any item into D&D is just make it a mimic, and so that's what I was meaning by a classic.
But still, that's still a hilarious idea, though. Hat mimic. That would be brutal.
I would listen to what one of the players likes. I like cooking, and they like their character cooks a lot, and just have this chef's hat be in one of the dungeons they go in, and they're like, "That's amazing! It's a chef's hat." And then they put it on, and tries to eat the brain.
I mean, honestly, that's super brutal. You put on a hat and it literally just like chomps your head. That's like that's pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking something along the lines of like a talking hat. I think would be really fun. Like a hat that like when you put on
Like a
put it
sorting
on like
hat?
can speak to your mind. No, but now that you say it,
Gryffindor!
yeah, but Gryffindor. No, but like almost like a sentient sword, but it's like a hat, like a wizard's hat or something, and it like talks to you, and I think that'd be really fun as well to do like some sort of hat that speaks to you and maybe even gives you spells or something like that. Would be really interesting. Or like a wizard's hat who like has the sentience of like a famous wizard, like an old wizard from a long time ago.
Or
I think it would be really fun.
Hear me out here. We make it one of those little caps that have the little spinner on top, and it's like hat of flying. It gives you a 10 feet fly speed because there's this little tiny rotor on top of your head.
Now here's the question: would it be like a helicopter, or would you be like an airplane? Like, would you fly?
Oh no, it'd be like a helicopter. You're literally being pulled by your head.
It's so
Kind
funny.
of dangling there underneath.
Honestly,
Maybe there's
that'd be
even like a
fun item to
really
give to a
cheap
party
kind
too.
of like rubberized strap that goes around your chin.
Does it make a noise? Does it like?
Yeah, it makes a full-on helicopter noise.
You literally turn into a helicopter. If you find all the pieces of the item set, you actually get like missiles too.
Oh, it's an attack helicopter, is it?
It is an attack helicopter. Actually, I would like as a player, I would find that item to be hilarious. Like a hat that allows you to fly. That's like a little spinner hat. That'd be so funny.
It would be, but it doesn't fit in the worlds that I like to play. But it is hilarious.
No, well, I mean, you probably could. You could probably fit it. I mean, it would just be really silly though. But
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the lukewarm open.
Okay. Well, on to the topic.
Also, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I got bit by a bug and it itches. Anyways, continue.
How inspirational, Aaron. That is.
Thanks.
What a motivation.
You know, I thought it was just going to be the most motivating thing I've heard in my life.
Wow.
And it was a little bit lackluster, but I thought it was going to work.
Well, on to the topic. So the topic. So this week, I wasn't sure what to talk about. Nothing really stuck out to me this week. And so I just kind of began to search, going on, looking at different things. And during my search, I came to the realization that even though we have done like a few episodes on magic items, they're so prevalent in D&D games because the party is expected to find a lot of them by the end of the campaign. So you constantly have to come up with new ones or interesting ones. And as you're using these, eventually you get really bored with just using what's in the book. So you begin homebrewing your own magic items. And so I was like, let's do another magic item episode. So I looked and found interesting magic items from the Forgotten Realms. And I was like, yes, okay, we'll do it on this one. And it had such a good name. I'm like, yep, this is it. So this week we're going to talk about Creshinibon, or simply the Crystal Shard.
The Crystal Shard. What is this? This is some sort of crazy magical artifact that we get to learn about?
Oh, yeah. It's a crazy magical artifact from a book written by R.A. Salvatore. It was originally from a book series. It's originally the first book in the Icewind Dale trilogy, but I don't know what happened, but the info on it says that later on it was transferred into the fourth book of the Drizzt series. I don't know how or why books would change series, because it seems like the book, they didn't change the writing in the book. They just changed I don't get it. I'm sure it makes sense.
I have no clue.
But it still sounds madness to me. So
maybe they like merge, like the two storylines merge. Oh,
maybe.
But you said the first book?
Yeah, so it was the first book of the Icewind Dale series, and then it became the fourth book of the Drizzt series.
Okay, there are several book series, as I'm a big fat book nerd, but there are several book series that are like overarching, a really long one, but are broken down into multiple different mini series within the long series. So that could mean what it is.
Maybe.
So like if you were to take Star Wars, like Star Wars is the entire trilogy, or is the not the entire trilogy, the entire series, but you have the prequels as one series and that kind of stuff. So within them.
Okay. Well, Creshinibon is actually an immensely powerful and evil crystal shard that draws its powers.
Okay, when we're
from
talking
the sun.
crystal shard, are we talking like just like a? When we're talking about crystal shards, are we just talking like a?
It's
rock?
holdable, so it's probably about the size of your arm, your what do they call that from the elbow down?
From the elbow down, your forearm.
Your forearm, yeah, just probably at the size of your forearm. Just a green shard of some sort of crystal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it takes its power from the sun. The creators of it wanted to use it to destroy living creatures, and they thought it was funny to make it draw on the power that many living creatures need to live. Now, this crystal is a sentient artifact that's entire goal is never-ending lust for power and glory, no matter the cost. This lust makes Creshinibon a very unpractical person, as they didn't care about the cost that it took for them to succeed. Creshinibon constantly sought a powerful wielder, even going out of their way sometimes to get their current owner killed to transfer to a stronger wielder that they saw.
Dang, that's kind of messed up.
Now, Creshinibon is from, as I said, the book series of the Icewind Dale trilogy. It is messed up. No, I don't know what edition Creshinibon was actually statted in, but I have some stats for it, and I believe they're 4th edition, and it'll help us kind of understand what the power level of this thing is, even if it's not correctly leveled for like 5th edition. Now, as I said earlier, Creshinibon is powered by the sun, and it literally is. And it gains 12 power levels every hour that it stays in the sun, to a maximum charge of 144 power levels. When not in the sun...
So, like, it's like photosynthesis rock?
Kind of. When not in the sun, it loses 1 power level every hour. Now, being a sentient artifact... a wielder can burn power levels to create spell effects at the cost of 1 power level per level of the spell. Which, with a maximum of 144 power levels, that is an insane amount of spells that you can cast with this thing.
So, wait. So, you spend 1 power level, and you can duplicate a spell?
So, if you spend 1 power level, you can cast a first level spell. Yeah, a spell effect. Dang. If you do 2 power levels, you get a second level. 3 a third, 4 a fourth, and so on and so on. So, with 144 power levels... that's an insane amount of spells you could cast just there.
That's so powerful.
That's not even like the main thing that it does, though, which is the bigger thing. Now, being that it's a sentient artifact, it has other powers that aren't exactly powers, but are things that they can do with its very nature, such as Creshinibon. Being as evil and powerful as it is, there is a natural allure that draws evil beings hoping to become more powerful to it. Creshinibon uses this to build a massive army for their masters, drawing in weaker evil beings that hope to get a piece of the power. Now, all of that I've said so far about what Creshinibon can do is incredibly powerful. But it isn't the full power of this.
Gosh dang it.
Because
you keeps leveling up, man.
Yeah, really it does. Using 24 power levels per day, the wielder can make large magical towers called Crishal Torith. And for 12 power levels after creation, the towers can be teleported to anywhere that the creator chooses. And it also takes everything that is inside the tower with it. So you could create this giant tower, get your whole army inside, and then just teleport them to exactly where you want to go.
That is so good.
Now, these towers have 4 levels. And you can just create as many of these towers as you want. It just costs 24 of these levels per day. And so on these 4 levels, they have secret doors, defensible positions, comfortable sleeping chambers, and even scrying rooms full of scrying devices. The tower and all of its occupants are invulnerable to external psionic attacks and external physical attacks. And no magic cast inside the tower can affect the bearer of Creshinibon. Now, it has a lot more features. Like, it does a lot of things. Like, it has this exploding light ray. And if you remove a mirror from one of the towers, you can use it as a two-way communication between the tower. But I think it's pretty clear at this point that this is an insanely powerful artifact.
It's like it needs its own book, you know?
I mean, really, that whole Icewind Dale series, it kind of goes through this thing. Now, I kind of hinted at this earlier, but Creshinibon's history is an interesting one. It was created by a group of 7 powerful liches. These liches wanted to create the most powerful item possible to help them conquer the world.
And of course, classic liches.
Seeing the world's dependence and love for the sun, they loved the idea of it strengthening them as well. So they powered their creation with the sun's energy. In the end, though, the creation process was too much, and the powerful sun ability of the artifact destroyed them, and their power that remained was absorbed by the artifact.
Oh, classic. That's pretty brutal.
They created it, and it was already supposed to be the most powerful thing possible. Then it absorbed 7 lich souls, so it just got even more powerful. Now, long ago, Creshinibon was found on the material plane and used simply as a basic wizard's tool because they didn't understand the true power and potential behind it. That was
just grab your Creshinibon off the shelf and we'll take the air temperature.
That was until a powerful sultan got possession of it. And with his court wizards, he learned the truth behind the artifact and its creation. In the end, he believed the lich's work was incomplete and wished to expand it. He didn't do this maliciously. He wished for peace, for his nation was surrounded by many warlike neighbors. And with his court wizards, they actually powered up Creshinibon a little bit more. But it was still not enough, because this sultan tried to create a wall of these towers to defend his land from a particularly dangerous ruler. But in the end, he stretched Creshinibon too much, creating hundreds of towers, and they were too weak, and they were shattered by a heavy storm that came literally right before the ruler attacked. And in the end...
Jeez, he's literally making a wall of towers.
Yeah. In the end, the ruler who the dude was the sultan was worried about, the armies trample his, and in front of the sultan, he kills his whole family, and then kills the sultan. When the sultan dies, the sultan's soul is absorbed by Creshinibon. This second absorption kind of broke Creshinibon. The evil intents of the liches were already a great weight to deal with, but this traumatized, kind soul, seeing such devastation and hopelessness, turned Creshinibon's personality into that evil being intent on gaining more and more power so that these things could never happen to it again. Now, this shard went through a lot of owners, as demons, devils, undead, and humanoids would continually hunt it, taking it from each other. But I'm not going to go into super detail on that, as it is a lot of stories from a lot of different books and series, and I don't want to spoil anything unknowingly. But I will talk about the current owner of it, as it is super important for what it is now. Now, this is going to be spoiling a book called The the Ghost King.
Oh, that can't be good.
And so, yeah, and so I just, spoilers for that. If anybody is reading that, you might want to stop here. Now,
I'm going to take a guess that he's evil.
A man named Catterley Bonaduce figured out that the only way to destroy the shard was an ancient red dragon's fire. And after some betrayals, a doppelganger who was living as Catterley was betrayed by his lieutenant, Ray Gu. Nope, that's not right. It's Ray Guy.
The spaghetti sauce.
Ragu. It's Ray Guy, RAI-GUY.
He was betrayed by his own spaghetti sauce.
And it was his lieutenant. And the doppelganger convinced a red dragon, Hephaestus, to breathe fire upon a globe of magical darkness where Ray Guy was hiding with the shard. This destroyed it and caused a massive explosion, which actually blinded Hephaestus permanently. But as we all can tell, there is more to the story, for the shard, despite being destroyed, still had massive amounts of necrotic energy. Soon after, the spell plague began to affect the area. And the spell plague, which we talked about before, is a time when magic goes mad. All rules and control of it are gone. And the dragon Hephaestus in this spell plague was turned into a Draco Lich due to some weirdness happening.
How strong are Draco Liches to D&D? I don't even know. I don't think I've ever used one.
Quite. I'm gonna look it up right now. They're not like
Red Dragon strong though, right?
No. And they might be, because the whole point of it is that the dragon wants to stay alive, and the dragon will do anything it can. So, okay, Draco Liches, it looks like Draco Liches can have, like you can have a red dragon Draco Lich, or a, here, let's see, I'm at the page, let's see what the CR is. It's not giving me a CR, so it might be, like, depending on which type of Draco Lich.
CR 17.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, they look pretty strong. They're not quite as strong as, I'm sure you can, this one's only an adult. So
yeah, the challenge rating for this one.
And they're different. This is a blue one.
Yeah, the challenge rating for this one, for the Draco Lich, says it's the same as the base creature. So whatever if you have ancient red dragon, +1 to whatever the CR is.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
Yeah. And this now Draco Lich Hephaestus and a nearby Mind Flayer body, the spirit was released from the Mind Flayer as a ghost. The ghost of this Mind Flayer convinced the new Draco Lich to smash what remained of Creshinibon into its forehead. In doing so, Creshinibon fused with the Draco Lich, but the energy also caused the Mind Flayer spirit to bind together as well. And it created a new multi-creature being that the ghost of the Mind Flayer dubbed the Ghost King. It had the powerful psionics of a Mind Flayer, had the powerful wings and abilities of a Draco Lich, and it had the incredible necrotic power of Creshinibon.
That's not good.
No.
It's not good at all.
And it wanted revenge. As the doppelganger who convinced it to destroy Creshinibon, he kind of tricked him to do it because it was in this area of darkness, so he didn't know what he was firing upon, and it's what made him go blind, and so he is not happy. So he's hunting this doppelganger, and the doppelganger realizes, there's no way I could take on this guy alone. Like, it's just not going to happen. So he goes and he finds a powerful ally that we will eventually talk about, Driss Do'Urden, a very famous adventurer from the Forgotten Realms. The group eventually...
No idea who he is. That's how famous he is.
Trying to think of how you'd know him. Yeah, there's like a million books about him. Like, it's...
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Driss Do'Urden. He's a drow that was like, I don't like how the drow society is. I don't want to be evil. I don't want to do this. Screw this, I'm out.
I've definitely seen pictures of him. The green furry cloak.
Yeah.
Definitely seen pictures of him.
Yeah, and it's spelled DRIZZ apostrophe T DO apostrophe URDEN.
Yeah, I've definitely seen photos of him or like pictures of him, fan art of him.
Mm-hmm. And now, I this is off topic, but he has sorry, I'm trying to find the info of it. He has a pet, and I believe it is a panther.
It looks like a panther, yeah. From the photos I see, it looks like a panther.
Now, don't look up the name of it. I will. I think it's pronounced Guinevere. How do you think he spelled it?
I don't even know how to spell normal Guinevere, so.
Well, this one is definitely not how you spell the regular Guinevere. It's GUENHWYVAR.
Heck yeah. I mean, hey, you just gotta do the different spelling. That's just the alternate spelling, It's no big deal.
But yeah, eventually we'll get to talking about Driss, but as I said, there's 1,000,001 books about him, so it's going to be a huge topic. But this doppelganger gets Driss, convinces him to help him, and in the end, the group eventually defeats the Ghost King. But Catterley gives his life to defeat the creature, and in the end actually becomes the new Ghost King and protects the magical rift that was formed from their powerful battle to this day.
So then he became good?
Kind of, or
So
more
Ghost
like
King's
somebody
now
took
good?
over who was good.
That's a cool little story. I
Yeah.
like that. Kills like a giant, sacrifices himself, and becomes the Ghost King.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many stories with Creshinibon. Like during the time of its creation, there was a demon called Ertru, and he, in the ensuing chaos and the death of the liches, he was banished back to the abyss. He makes his way out of the abyss, realizes, oh wait, Creshinibon still exists. Like he thought when everything broke, he thought it had died and gone away. It didn't, and so he's like continually hunting after it, and it's like this really interesting tale, and it's cool.
Rampaging around looking for it. Like rampaging around looking for it. Is he like killing people trying to find it? What is he doing?
I mean, he's a demon. He's trying to use it for evil, demonic means, but there's so many cool stories that were done with this. And so I was thinking we could create our own. I mean, I don't know if we want to make it OP, but just some sort of really cool magic item that could be some sort of central part of many interesting stories, like Vestiges of Divergence or like some sort of big thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm down for this. Making a. Do we want it to be sentient? Do we want it to be?
I don't think it has to be.
Are we thinking?
When I was starting out DMing and playing D&D, I was like, oh, I gotta have sentient weapons, and then I just kind of lost a taste for them.
I don't think I've ever created a sentient weapon in D&D before.
Yeah, just having the weapon talk to the person, it just, unless there's a way to limit how often it talks, it just kind of feels like it gets boring.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you really have to have really good cooperation with the player as well to make it interesting. And the sentient item has to be obviously interesting, otherwise it's like dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we thinking? What item are we thinking? We're thinking wands, staves, sword, bow, armor, locket, foot,
wait,
toe.
Sorry. Is foot and toe magic items that you were wanting to make?
No, I was just
You're like, foot and toe. What?
It's called the foot of luck.
It's a human foot instead of a rabbit foot. Oh,
it's a human foot on a necklace. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely made by a hag.
Or it's a human foot that grafts onto you, like kills your own foot and grafts onto you, and
okay. No, I kind of want it to be one of those things you have to. Oh, maybe being
gives
sewed
you like
on
30 feet extra feet of movement.
No, because I like the lucky idea. I liked it being like a rabbit's foot. And so what I would want it to be is it would be a hag would make it, and what it would do is it would let you crit on a 19 and a 20, because that's lucky. You crit more often.
See, I like that, but there's got to be something better you can do about with luck, right?
I mean, there's not
I mean,
really
the entire
luck.
game is
Luck
based on luck.
is the luck of the dice. So I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I was like, how do you really play up luck as a mechanic?
I mean, the lucky feat is like by far the best way. I think you can just re-roll dice, but the luck feat is already incredibly good, and I wouldn't want to just give somebody the luck feat with an item. I mean, you could. I had a dagger in my last game that was a lucky dagger, and it gave you the luck feat, along with doing a couple other things. But I made a lockpick set that could like transform, well, a tool that could transform into any tool set you wanted to, that like kind of went with it, which is really good. Could like transform and change into any tool set, and our rogue always used it for everything. And then I even think I made it like a +1 tool set, so it gave you +1 to all the rolls that you made with it for like ability checks.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, what do we want? What kind of item do we want to make? What are we thinking? I kind of want it to be different than like a sword or a wand or a staff or like a piece of armor.
Yeah.
But what's different? I mean, there's a crown, but crowns are
I kind of like your idea of a
pretty
locket.
normal, right?
And maybe it's one of those ones that like it's so rusted and just like the metal's so not what it used to be that it's like sealed shut pretty much. Or maybe it was even physically welded shut. Like,
I have an idea.
okay.
What if, okay, this, I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this, but when you talked about a rusty item that was like sealed shut, I immediately thought like a chest.
Rusty trombone.
Am I? No, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Gosh dang.
I only know that because of Critical Role. And that's scarred me for life, my man.
Don't ever look it up.
Don't ever look up what the rusty trombone is.
But I was thinking of like a chest that's like sealed and locked shut, like rusted shut. But
It's a rusted up mimic?
no, well, I mean, that'd be interesting too, but not necessarily. I was thinking of like Pandora's box type of thing, except for like you could, my thought was you could like put something in it and it would like randomly give you something in return. And so people have like wasted entire nations and like grand magical items to try and get something out of it that's better than what they put in. So like, I think it could be a really interesting story idea, like some sort of chest
I like that.
where,
and what I would do is I would have it in like a high, like a place like in Skyrim, High Hrothgar, where
Hrothgar?
Yeah, where the Greybeards are. And so it's like in this kind of neutral central location, like they're all high up on this mountain. So like multiple nations will like make these treks, as you said, with grand weapons trying to get something better. And like some nations, even in like massive amounts of desperation, will spend most of what they have just trying to get something to help their nation.
Yeah, like how I kind of originally envisioned it like was like it's, I just picture it as like the ultimate form of greed, I guess, where like people are, there's like an ancient story or myth or heck, even like a real story where somebody puts like a dagger in and they end up getting like a, you know, like some sort of crazy magical artifact.
I think it's,
or whatever, like a flame tongue or something.
I think it's also,
but like,
I think there are so many stories of people putting something in, receiving something amazing, and then becoming like heroes of legend. And so that's right. That's what draws people there, is that there's multiple stories of this happening.
See, but what I think I like even more than it being in like a neutral location is like a Fountain of Youth type thing where it's lost and nobody knows where it is. And people go and search for it in like maybe like a new world type thing. Like there's like a new world, like a new continent that's never been explored, but that's where it's supposed to be. And so people go and try and explore.
Okay, wait, hold on. So I was thinking about something this week. I mean, that we might consider doing, and this is the perfect time to do it with what your new world suggestion. How about season 3? Have we start season 3 today?
Start season 3 today?
And season 3 starts with what you were saying, a new world. Like there's going to be like an established continent, whatever it is, but there's also they've just discovered a new continent.
No, I like this a lot.
And it's like a frontier. Like it's very new. Like there's like a few cities there, but they're not heavily established. But
like I don't even think I want there to be any cities, maybe like natives or whatever.
Because what I was thinking is that they've been there long enough that there has been legends, quotation marks, that have found it before.
Well, see, what I'm thinking is that this chest originated in the established, like the story would go is that this chest originated in the established nation, but the last person who found it, because of his greed, wanted to keep it for himself, and so he tried to sail to a new land to hide, to never be found with it, and his boat like sank, or he made it and died there.
Well, I think they just never know. I just think they don't know where it. So they find this new land. They're like, it must be there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like the story is like he sailed off, but we don't know. There's multiple versions. There's some versions that say he made it to a lost land and was never seen again. Some say he sunk in the ocean. Some say he circled back and found the southern established continent or whatever. And so there are people who are searching for this chest that can like grant them their desires, everything they wanted.
Okay, cool. I like this.
I think it's super cool. Yeah. And so a bunch of people are now kind of like the Fountain of Youth are now like sailing across the sea to this new land, trying to find this chest in order to trade it something and essentially test their luck to see what they get from it. And I even like the idea of like you literally are testing your luck. Like it can produce things that are very harmful for humans and humanity even. Like I don't know if I want it to be like it can release monsters like a Pandora's box, or it can like literally release like elementals or something, or like
wait,
I don't know exactly.
In terms of the randomness and the type of stuff that can be received from this box, do you think it's like a deck of many things where yes, it can have like the deck of many things literally has an avatar of death, which can be summoned, which is it forces the person to fight it. Like whoever was the one to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like it's like I don't know if I'd reskin it as a deck of many things.
I don't know if I'd do it completely, but I was just saying like for a basic idea of how it works.
Yes, yeah, it would be like that where you can.
So there's some things that could literally switch your alignment from one to another. There's things that could boost your level. Like does have a lot of power.
Yeah. Like I think the story would go like the person who, how would it have been created? That's a really good question, actually. How would it have been created?
My idea would be the gods are not as well known in this world. And so all they have to go off for the gods, they don't have like super direct communication. All they have is a few stories. And so one of the stories is of the gods creating this device it's said to like find the heroes of the world and call to them.
See, now it kind of makes me want to do multiple origin stories that nobody really knows still.
That works. I'm up for that.
So like one of them is the gods gave it to men to, you could also do, and this is going to be a little bit off the rails, but you could also do the stories about it are like all true, and that's why it's random. That's why it's so, like, one of the stories is the gods gave it to men for prosperity, so you can draw prosperity from it. One of the rumors is the gods gave it to teach men a lesson about greed, and that's why bad things can happen. One story is a man created it himself to gain power and control, and that's why you can gain power and control from it. Like there's all these different stories that have taken root and have affected this chest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if the stories actually have an effect on the chest. I like the idea that all of the stories are true, and so maybe there's like some ancient wise person that the party would meet that would literally say like, why couldn't all the stories be true?
No, right. Yeah, and I don't think the stories themselves don't impact the chest. It's just the chest does all these things, and they've created individual stories out of them, like individual origin stories. But as far as like the true origin stories, though, do we want it to be created? Do we want to do like a classic
I love the idea that all of them are actually true. That's what I was saying.
Like
the stories are actually true. So I like the idea that the stories were separated. So the idea that the gods made it to give the world prosperity is one story. The gods created it to find the heroes and grant them power. That's another story. Another story is it was created by man with greed, or it was the gods also giving it as a warning of greed.
Yeah.
And like all of it is these things, and so all of these are also
I like
true.
The story of I like the story of like humans created it to gain power and rule over lands. So they created it to be able to gain control and power.
And so I don't know how all of like, because like I get it, so I was thinking like all of the gods work together, and maybe like the first humanoid, the first mortal was a part of this creation, and so they put in their lust for power and greed.
What if so this made me think like, what if this chest, this box originally started out as like a good item, but the more and more people held on to it and changed it, it evolved into all these things? Or do we want it to have the potential to do all these things before any of these stories arose?
Yeah, I think it always had these potentials, and I think that was kind of the god's intents of greed can be a major component of this and cause ruin, but also it can also give the correct item to the correct person to save people's lives. Like all of these are part of the creation and the tale that they wanted to be told with this.
I have another myth story then. What if we did something crazy too in terms of myth stories? And there's like the civilized world has a story. So I want there to be the civilized world and then like a native world, like new world, but there's like natives and stuff. What if like the native story is that this chest created their island to sustain them, and like their ancestors, their like ancient ancestors used this chest and it gave them this bountiful continent for them to live on. It gave them all their nature.
And okay, is that so? The dude that was sailing across the world, do you think he was the one who drew from this, or at least maybe he died and then his like crew drew from it and they got land and it created?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And so kind of in the central point of this whole continent is where.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
as it is.
That's central. So like, yeah, like none of the stories are true that he, like sailed to a new land and he sunk. Like, he died on a new land. It's literally he created a new continent with this chest and died there or whatever of old age or something. Maybe you can like find a ruined, rundown shack where this chest is just sitting. like who knows? But I like the idea of like the native stories are now like our ancestors used that chest to create this beautiful continent that we live and maintain. So interesting.
It is
interesting. So then, obviously, we have a lot of people looking for this chest. Do we want anybody to know? Do we want anybody to know the location, like natives or anything like that?
I think there are people that probably know, but I don't think it's. I think it'll be so few that I think in any campaign where this is thrown in, just 100% up to the DM, which people would actually know. It's so few, like 2 to 3 in the whole world.
Now here's another question then. So nobody really knows where this chest is at. Maybe one or two people, if that. I still don't know what I think about that, but if hardly anybody knows, if somebody were to find this chest and like carry it around, would the island like break? Does it still sustain?
Well, so what I think is that it's because it created this land, it's literally like merged with it, like it's sunken in and like a part of it. You would have to like literally take a pickaxe and remove it.
Well, and I think I like the idea of it destroying the land because like
yeah, I think it definitely would, but I think it would take such a force to work through this, remove it from the ground, and then take it somewhere that it's very unlikely it will happen. But that might be a story point of somebody is that greedy that they will do that.
Like they start a giant excavation site and like are trying to dig this thing out of the ground, which can cause all sorts of fun little moral quandaries of like, well, you're going to destroy an entire land and all the people that are on it. Like you could do a very typical like settlers versus Native American storyline if you wanted. Mm-hmm. You could do, I mean, there's so many things you could do with that. But I love the idea of this. So then, okay, who's owned this chest in the past? Like we've had the one guy who sailed away with it because he wanted to keep it forever, and he ended up essentially creating his own continent with it and dying there. Who owned it in the past? Like who in the civilized world? Like there's got to be wars fought over it, I'd imagine, right?
Yes, and I think that was the big thing is that there were nations who would get it, and then everybody would target them, and so maybe even some nations just as soon as they got it, they would just give it away because they're like, this is going to bring too much upon us, and we don't have the military to take care of that. We'll use it and then give it away. And so huge wars are fought, but
I could see like a ancient pharaoh type thing who had it for a really long time, like a really powerful nation, like a only Egypt type thing that had taken it for held it for so long.
Later on, because they held it so long, they felt they were invulnerable.
Yeah, I even like the idea of this king like gained immortality from it, and he became like the immortal king or whatever, only to be like killed by some assassin who was trying to steal it or something like that. Like, I love that kind of concept too. And then that guy took it and ran with it, and the entire nation essentially crumbled because whatever it blesses you with, like it's kind of built off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what if we did something like that too? Because so like we already have the island, like it's still giving. Does it give multiple gifts at once / things at once, or do you have to wait until it's finished before the next one can start? Does that make sense?
What do you mean? Like
so my example would be the man who took it and sailed across the sea. He opened it and it created an entire new continent.
Mm-hmm.
The last gift that was given was that continent, and the man died, so it's still on that gift. But if somebody were to use it again and draw it again, it'd be a different gift, and the previous one would slowly start to decay. So if we did the pharaoh, for example, he gained immortality and like a powerful kingdom.
But I also think that what I would have it be is, it's like every 100 years, once 100 years have passed, it like solidifies the last gift.
I like that actually.
So
I
you
like
pull something immediately, then what you had previously will die. But if it's 100 years later, then it stays. And so I think the immortality, like, so I think a fun story for that Egyptian person that you were saying, the kind of ruler king, he was like at the 99.9% to 100 when this thief breaks in, pulls something from the chest, destroying his immortality, and then killing him,
causing him to die.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And he was like at the line, like so close to being permanent. But
yeah, and I even like, again, I like the idea of like a nation was or whatever by this chest as well, and they do we have places that have stayed around for 100 years? Do people know about them, or are they just more like Like, if we had a nation that has been around for a long time who got blessed by this chest, would people know that the nation was, or is it just like there's a rumor that it might be, or like what would we think about that?
I think in the modern era, like when the game when the D&D would start, I think at that point the information has been so diffused that it is hard to know which nations were a part of those wars and actually had the possession of the thing. Because I think it changed hands so fast that it seemed like before 100 years had passed, somebody else would have opened it already. And
I think.
And so it's hard to know which nations actually were positively affected by it, because it feels like it just constantly changed hands, even though that's actually old history and it did stay with people for 100 years or more. And so there are a few nations who are permanently blessed with it, but not all of them are.
Okay. I have another idea.
Yes.
As well that goes along this route, but with the island. I'm thinking, or the continent, I'm thinking that the continent is very, very old that it created, but it creates the box was left open, like remained open. Like maybe the box killed him in return for creating the continent. Like, because you have to trade something to get something back. Like he was killed and it created the continent. And so he died with the box left open. And so it's continuously building and creating this continent older and older. And so the central part of the continent is permanent, but the further out you go towards the coast, the younger the island is. And so when they do this excavation project, it can wipe out like 3/4 of the island. So there's still a moral quandary, but the continent is still...
I love that idea that it's constantly expanding, and maybe that's becoming an issue. Maybe there's not enough, like there's maybe even the campaign starts not on the new land, and like I don't know what would happen if land continued to expand into the sea, but definitely some fish would have some real issues. And so whatever is going on, like they are seeing the repercussions of that, and then eventually later on in the campaign they learn, oh, this thing is expanding, that's why that was happening. And maybe it's even like what we had in like our very first season, where it's like Kuatoa or some sort of fish humanoids are coming onto the land because they just don't, their places are being overrun.
I like that kind of concept. I think that's super interesting. It's still continuing to build this continent.
Yeah.
Because like it's like left open, like the deal wasn't finished or whatever. Like
I like the idea that it's just continually building.
Yeah. This is a super unique magic item, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's somewhat like Pandora's box, I guess.
Yeah, kind of, but I mean, I think it's more than that.
Oh, it's yeah, no, for sure. So then, if the party were to get a hold of this, what do you think it would do? What would you have it do?
I would have it...
Because you have to be really careful.
Well, so what I have them do is I would probably have it give them a gift, or they would find somebody who has had a gift from it recently. So they find this gift, and then all of a sudden, like later on in the campaign, they are going to see the newer parts of the land where they're starting to build things.
I have another.
There's a lot of issues going on as it's like breaking off and falling into the ocean, as it's literally crumbling and falling apart. And they're like, they figure out what happened and they have to figure out how to fix it. And so that's like kind of the big thing of the campaign. How do we fix this? The land is literally falling into the water.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking also along these lines. Do we want there to be another way to make things permanent besides 100 years?
Yes, and I think it relies on the gods themselves, and that's why the gods are like, there's only like these stories, and so you know like the names of the gods, and you can kind of figure out things about them based on these stories, but the stories are all they have. So you got to figure out a way to, like, you got to like read a story about like an ancient hero who was able to talk to the gods, like, and things like that, and so they have to find a way to connect with the gods and get them to permanent.
There'd be another story of a person who gave like the ultimate sacrifice and created a god from the chest?
Oh, 100%. I definitely think a god was definitely created from the chest, for sure.
Yeah, like I think that's super cool too. But I like the idea of there being like I don't want to say ultimate trade, but like a trade that will produce something permanent no matter what. And that's another thing people obsess about. Like they're looking for what is the trade that's permanent. Like some people think it's blood, so like they would sacrifice tons of people at it to trade. Like some people think it's the first fruits of their harvest or whatever, and they try and do that. Like so there's all sorts of rumors of what the
I like the first fruits of their harvest because it's such a vague thing. So I'm sure some people have like killed their children,
right. No,
being
yeah.
like, that's the first fruit of my labor. Like that's, and like it gets dark.
Yeah, I just think there'd be tons of stories about what the trade is that can give you a permanent chance of, something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this is a super interesting origin item. So there's so much you could do with it.
Yeah.
Do you think this item has ever been stolen and hidden? Like by like a famous thief or thieves guild or something like that? Yeah, or do you think somebody's been granted like incredible arcane power from this?
Yes.
Like a farmer boy found it and was granted incredible arcane power, like a warlock type thing.
I was gonna make it more a sorcerer.
Yeah, yeah.
I think what happened was the chest got stolen at one point. The person who stole it was like this holier than thou, I want to save the world by removing this from it type person. So what this person does, they bury it. They bury it under the ground. In that area, there is like an absurd amount of sorcerers. And that's
like it
why.
Produce something in the land or whatever.
Yeah, it's this powerful magic that's just been in under the ground for so long. And so I think they built this wizarding / sorcerer school there just because there was just so many sorcerers.
Or maybe it also like increases the power of spells or whatever too. So
yeah, and so but eventually it gets
in that
found and war resumes, but it was there at one point.
It's left in its place like a powerful magic zone, like a. I mean, that sounds lame, but like a powerful magic zone.
I think that goes away. But I think it's like one of these things that historically is always remembered. There was so many. It's like a oh gosh, what's it called? That one island, Martha's Vineyard. That's what it is.
Oh,
it's an island, Martha's Vineyard.
It is.
Do you know the story of this?
I don't know the story of it.
So in Martha's Vineyard, where's Martha's Vineyard? It is. Just tell me where you're at.
Cape Cod,
Massachusetts. Yeah, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And just like being deaf is not a genetic disease, but for some reason and somehow in Martha's Vineyard, there was an insane population of like the majority of people were deaf there. And it's not a genetic disease, so it's not passing down from people to people to people. It just happened that this is what is happening. And so eventually it got to the point where everybody was signing more than they were speaking English. They literally went there and interviewed people and were like, which of your neighbors are deaf? And they're like, I don't know. Because they all just signed. They didn't need to know.
Yeah.
And it was just this crazy moment in time. And even now it's still like there's still a like residual from that time in history where so many people know sign language in Martha's Vineyard, even though now the majority probably aren't deaf. But it was just this weird moment in time. And so I think it's remembered in the same way in this fantasy world of it was just this weird time. Everybody was a sorcerer here. We don't know why, but it was.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of, and they built this school for sorcery there, and they just always remember this time, but it's not the same anymore, but it was. And that's what's important.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Like it's left little pockets of like historical change essentially that has like left the test of time, kind of like in that area. One more thing before we even end, because it's getting a little bit long. But do you think somebody had ever used it to try and defeat the gods? Like it created like a stairway to heaven or something, like a
I'm more a fan of Immigrant Song, but Stairway to Heaven's good too.
like a portal to the gods realm.
But yeah, I
like a
think
mountain?
they tried, and I think they were quickly like they were one of the major ones of greed,
Right.
where
Yeah.
it just didn't work.
Yeah. I was thinking because that'd probably be a pretty common thing where somebody tries to like use it to be stronger than the gods or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which could also be a reason why they're not as like active in this world as we have them in other ones.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
But anyways, yeah.
a pretty interesting creation and a pretty good start for season 3.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for listening to episode 47 of Dungeoneered. And if you listen to us on any podcasting apps that have rating and review, please write a review. Let us know what you think. It also really helps the show, showing that you're engaging in more ways than just listening.
Do it. Do it.
If you want to write to us, let us know what you think, or even ask a question. Maybe even get some lukewarm open ideas
Heck
rolling.
yeah.
Send them our way to dungeoneered@hotmail.com.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
And always remember to be the
Ooh, speedy outro.
sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye.